Well, welcome back to another day's Stick with Koolfrogg. It's slightly different change from what was going on last night, possibly. It looked like American Shirts is going to have an issue. If you actually like him, you like his content, you can actually go to his website, americanshirtsaretfirst.com, and totally help the man out. That is his bread and his butter. So as long as he's got that there, I'm going to actually try to still helping him out. That being said, I do have Jimmy YouTube with me. How's it going, man?
Hello, me again.
I'm not sure if it's just going to be you and me tonight, but you know, we're going to see if we can't get into some more of this footage that we had with. If it's just the two of us, we might actually make it through the majority of it. Who knows how far we'll actually get? I'm going to pour myself a glass of whiskey.
Let's see what the night brings here.
Yeah, you can make sure that you guys, follow Jimmy and the stuff. If you actually go down in the description, you actually see his stuff is down in there. You want to read that stuff off while I'm pouring myself my glass. Show yourself out, bud. No?
For sure. You can follow me at Jimmy YouTube here on YouTube or over on TikTok. I'm going semi-viral. You can follow me over there at the Atlas Pass, or on Twitter, follow me at RealAnimeRich _ and capitalizations.
And again, I'm Koolfrogg. You can follow me almost anywhere at Koolfrogg. If you're interested in helping me out immediately, you can actually go to buymeacoffee.com/Koolfrogg. That's KOOLFROGG. I do have a link tree down in the description. You can actually follow a link tree, and there's lots of different places you can try supporting me. If I pick up that you supported me somewhere, I will totally read any comments that come across during this night show. That being said, I think we're going to try moving on and see if we can actually listen to the rest of this hearing. This could be interesting, being it's just the two of us, because you're kind of glitching a little bit. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Now?
Yeah, you sound all right, but I don't know if it's going to be a good thing if you actually drop and it's just me. That could be kind of interesting. We'll see what we can do.
Word for it.
We'll see what we can do. We might actually make it through the rest of the show if nobody else shows up. I did message Grim to see if he actually show up, and I really don't know what's going on with that. We'll see. So let's share this fast and we'll get this going. So this is what we were actually working on. Looks like I'm about 30 seconds behind of where we actually ended last night, which should be okay.
Perfect. Little refresher.
In a program called RADx, the Rapid Acceleration of Diagnostics, are working very closely with many of these companies well as they go through the development stages. So we remain very committed to the work that these companies are doing, and look forward to partnering with them as they begin to bring these products forward.
Thank you. Senator Collins.
Thank you. Ms. O'Connell, over the past 2 years, Congress has appropriated $82.6 billion specifically for testing.
So Congress has allocated $82.6 billion just for testing. That's a lot of money. That's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, for a little plastic
In addition,
strip.
we've given
right
the department flexibility to use other sources of funding. And yet, as you've heard repeatedly today, our frustrated constituents cannot find rapid tests when
If they allocated that much money to actually put towards this stuff, and they're producing this stuff, and they're unable to actually find product, there has to be more to this. There has to be a reason why these issues are coming forth. I think they kind of explained it yesterday when they said something about they don't want to actually put out new product until the old product is actually consumed.
Yeah, that was garbage. You know, it's almost like somebody skimming off the top.
Almost, yeah. Like all the time, somebody seems to be skimming something.
they need them. This testing crisis appears to have been entirely preventable, as is evidenced by the availability, the widespread availability of rapid tests in Europe, for example. The fact is that it appears the administration simply failed to anticipate our testing needs. As the former Assistant Secretary of Health recently pointed out, a lack of federal orders for tests between January and September of 2021 caused the manufacturers to reduce their lines and lay workers off, including at Abbott facilities in the state of Maine, where 400 workers were laid off. As a member of the Appropriations Committee, I share the concerns that have been expressed by Senators Burr and Blunt. I don't believe that we're in the position that we are in now due to a lack of funding, but rather a lack of planning.
No
My
kidding.
question.
Yeah, absolutely. No kidding. I mean, it's the lack of planning on almost everything that's been going on lately seems to be the main case in just about everything that they've been doing. It's just like
Even she said
you
it.
gotta.
Even she said, yeah,
Right.
we got plenty of money. Like, you're throwing all the money at us, but we don't know how to use it.
To you, is any of this funding, this close to $83 billion that was supposed to be used for testing,
Jeez.
been diverted for other purposes?
So her question was: is any of this money that's out there, has it been diverted for any other purpose than what it was in for?
I'd love to hear this one.
I mean, you'd almost just the look on her face to go along with what she actually said would almost make you think that, oh yeah, there's something that's occurring. That they're bankrolling this money somehow.
Senator Collins, thank you for this question. Testing remains a priority for this administration, and all the work we've done on testing has been to promote the priorities of expanding the number of testing sites available, expanding the type of tests that are available for use in the United States, expanding the supply of tests in the United States, and lowering the cost of tests.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I got to hear that again.
It's just an overdrawn non-answer. She didn't say whether or not
That's my
there was
volume
any
for-
funding put anywhere else.
And all the work we've done on testing has been to promote the priorities of expanding the number of testing sites available, expanding the type of tests that are available for use in the United States, expanding the supply of tests in the United States, and lowering the cost of tests. And we used
I'd
the
really
$47 billion that came in the American.
She kind of disrupted their flow there for a second.
Yeah, she's trying to get an actual answer out of her.
Right.
use in the United States, expanding the supply of tests in the United States, and lowering the cost of tests. And we used
I'd
the
really
$47 billion came in the American Rescue Plan. $10 billion of that went to schools, through the states to set up the school testing programs. $8.3 billion has gone to community testing sites, including for the uninsured and at the community health centers and the pharmacy program Dr. Walensky mentioned. $5 billion has gone to procure tests and supplies, and an additional $4.5 billion will go towards this $500 million that we are in the process of procuring. $29 billion.
So they're in the process of procuring a bunch of money. Another 500 million.
Supplies, and an additional $5 billion will go towards this $500 million that we are in the process of procuring.
So there's a large amount of money that they're actually going to take to try procuring more money.
To procure tests and supplies, and an additional $4.5 billion will go towards this $500 million that we are in the process of procuring. $29 billion has gone directly to states from previous supplementals for them to build and promote testing programs within their jurisdictions. The testing money, as you recall, was for testing, contact tracing, and mitigation efforts. And some of the funds have been used for mitigation efforts. For example, when children are crossing the border, one of the responsibilities.
Ahoy Grim, he's in chat. You can hit that link. You can come in here at any point in time you'd like.
Yeah,
That'd be
click the
totally
linky
awesome.
linky. Grim, just smack
It's in
that
the same
kinky
spot
linky.
that it was yesterday. There's a new link. I just deleted yesterday's link and put a new one in.
That we have within HH.
Okay, so because that happened, I have to go back a few.
That's chill. I
Listen
kind of
to
got
this again.
disrupted a little bit.
Efforts, and some of the funds have been used for mitigation efforts. For example, when children are crossing the border, one of the responsibilities that we have within HHS is to make sure that anyone who is that the children that are unaccompanied are cared for. And we used some of the funds to test those children and then to separate them from COVID negative children at the border.
I'm going to repeat my question because you did not answer it.
She didn't answer it at all. She just kind of gave her a bunch of information that was irrelevant to the question. I do see that Grim said that he had just woke up. Him and his wife are going to go get some food. When you're done doing what you're doing, you come back in here and totally join us. We'll totally enjoy your commentary. So let's see if she actually gives her an answer this time after she asks another question.
Has any of that money been used for non-testing related purposes at the border?
Same question.
Yeah, she said that she used it to procure more money.
For the mitigation purposes as well, which the legislation allowed.
Supplies for.
She did, but then she also said that the 4.5 was going toward the 50 million that they're. Okay, we're gonna have to go back and listen to what she actually said again.
Unaccompanied are cared for.
I would like the clarification.
And we used some of the funds to test those children and then to separate them from COVID negative children at the border.
I'm going to repeat my question because you did not answer it. Has any of that money been used for non-testing related purposes at the border?
For the mitigation purposes as well, which the legislation allowed the funding to be used for.
I will follow up with you because I don't feel like I'm getting an answer. Dr. Fauci, just last week, the president once again said that COVID-19 is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And let me make very clear that I've encouraged vaccinations. I believe in them. But contradicting the president's statement, in Maine, our largest health system reported that absences of vaccinated staff caused by COVID-19 last week was at the highest point since vaccines became available. It's increased by fourfold. Does the message that COVID is a pandemic of the unvaccinated still hold true with the emergence of Omicron? And do you agree with the New York Times, which has twice reported that while the COVID vaccine is critical in preventing hospitalizations and death, it is less effective against the Omicron variant?
Thank you for that question, Senator. Yes, indeed, it is. There's no doubt that the Omicron variant, when you look at the protection against symptomatic disease and asymptomatic infection, dramatically goes down to about 30%. What maintains itself, it goes up to about 70, it's about 70% against severe disease. When you boost, what happens is you get a rather significant reconstitution of the protection, particularly against hospitalization. So if you were to say that Omicron or even COVID-19 as it is really...
I got to listen to what he actually said there again, because he said something about that it just, my brain correctly. I didn't get enough sleep today.
a rather significant reconstitution of the protection, particularly against hospitalization. So if you were to say...
So particularly against hospitalization. What? That doesn't make sense.
What happens is you get a rather significant reconstitution of the protection, particularly against hospitalization.
Did that make sense to you?
I think he's trying to get at the question actually here. It doesn't seem like it fits as an explanation though. Like, I don't see how that applies to the testing.
Nothing that they actually say applies to the questions that are at hand. They just keep on spitting out bile to go along with no facts on anything.
So if you were to say that Omicron or even COVID-19 is really a pandemic, when you're talking about pandemic that causes serious disease, there's no doubt that there's an extraordinary divergence of risk between a vaccinated and an unvaccinated person. In response to the question just a bit ago, when I said that if you look at vaccinated versus unvaccinated, there's a 17 times greater chance of being hospitalized and a 20 times greater chance of dying if you are unvaccinated versus vaccinated.
Grim
What?
says 7. I don't know what he was actually commenting on. To me, it didn't make sense. 7.
Can you replay that just the last like 40 seconds, please? I wanna get
hold
that
on.
again.
So then Grim says it does not apply to tests. What he is saying is if you get a booster, it reinforces your immune system so that then you are less likely to be hospitalized. He is answering with the wrong answer.
It's a non-answer because it has
Right,
nothing
well,
to do with
that's-
the question asked.
Right, exactly. It's not even an answer. He's just like I said, spitting bile. It
Oh,
doesn't
this
make
guy
sense
deserves
what,
a bop in the mouth.
right? So you wanted to go back a few seconds, right?
Yeah, about like 40. I want to hear that nonsense again.
You want to hear all of what Fauci has to say?
A pandemic, when you're talking about pandemic that causes serious disease, there's no doubt that there's an extraordinary divergence of risk between a vaccinated and an unvaccinated person. In response to the question just a bit ago, when I said that,
So he's trying to answer the question that was asked previously to, that's not what she asked. So she's going to ask another question. She's going to be like, so I
He's
don't
literally
seem
just
to,
talking. Oh,
right.
go ahead, please.
She's going to say something like, I don't see that I'm getting an answer from you either.
if you look at vaccinated versus unvaccinated, there's a 17 times greater chance of being hospitalized and a 20 times greater chance of dying if you are unvaccinated versus vaccinated.
So, and then he goes and puts his mask
He's
on right away. So he's done answering. He has no answer to what her question actually was.
Thank you. Senator Hassan?
all he talked about.
Thank
Can
you,
you
Matt.
pause it?
Yeah.
All he talked about was the difference between the danger in being vaccinated and unvaccinated. Right there, he's like, "Oh, blah blah blah, 20% over here and yada yada." That's such bullshit, dude. It's like the danger level. I can't even talk about this. How am I supposed to say this? Hang on a
No,
second. Hang on a
well,
second.
you kind of can because we can just, we're just trying to figure out what these people are actually saying. Susan, we're not doctors. We're not, telling anybody that should do anything that they shouldn't. They should actually go see their doctor and do what's best for them.
Of course. Now, having said
But
that,
yeah,
and if it's all right for me to try to tiptoe here, in
just don't break a
my
toe.
personal opinion, right? And let me know if I'm get to that level, please.
No,
In
you're
my
okay.
personal opinion, I believe that the jab is more dangerous than being unjabbed.
I kind of, I'm kind of with you on that or whatever for the couple of cases that I've, personally been around or whatever that they've come up with certain things, and of course, they're with these people or whatever. They don't see the association, so because they haven't done any looking at anything else to actually see what is actually causing certain things to happen. They're just, I wish we didn't have to sit around the freaking facts about everything or whatever, but at the same time, we'll tiptoe around it all, and we'll just kind of be like, well, we don't really have an opinion on any of it, and we're not going to actually give you an opinion. We're just going to let you know that we're here to listen to what they actually had to say and listen to the non-answers. So
Right, we're listening to your experts, Susan.
right.
Madam Chair and Ranking Member Byrne, thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today and for your ongoing work. I deeply appreciate it.
We just know they're
Dr.
lying out their
Fauci, I want to start with a couple of questions.
Say what?
I said we just know they're lying out their ass.
Yeah, I mean, regardless,
It's provable.
they're not lying. It's just not answering. They're giving out, those facts that are out there that they actually have been pushing for as long as they had been. That's the only facts that they know. So they're going to continue to push those facts to make it sound like everybody should know the 17% chance and the 20% chance of dying or whatever from COVID is something that's actually scary. And it's like, well,
I better not push the topic too much. You know, I might
No,
get
I know, and
spicy.
I'm trying not to push it too much either. And I'm trying, but the expected living after contracting it in the first place is so high that it's saying that it being unjabbed is a 20% more chance of you dying from it. It's like, well, I don't. I put my hands in God when it comes down to it. I mean, if it's up to him and he decides that it's my time, I mean, he decided
it's not like we're
time.
even anti-vaxxers. Like,
No,
we
not
like
at all.
vaccinations. We like
No,
the polio
right.
vaccination and all that.
Believe me, my child is fully up to date on everything that he needs. So I mean, I'm not,
Well put.
I'm not
Well put.
against it. I'm not against it at all. I'm against the lies and the deceit.
100%.
For you, we need to make sure those who become seriously ill with COVID-19 can receive treatment, and that doctors have clear guidelines on the effectiveness of each treatment for the latest variant. And touched on this in your opening statement, but I would like you to just expand a little bit on this. In light of Omicron, how is the administration evaluating new COVID-19 treatments and monitoring the effectiveness of existing treatments?
Thank you for that question, Senator. There are a number of studies that have been conducted and that are being conducted right now, and they have to do with studies that are NIH-sponsored, one of which is the Adaptive COVID-19 Treatment Trials, or ACT, ACTT, which in fact have been from the very beginning, as early as February of 2020, was the basis for the FDA approval of the antiviral remdesivir. Other of those studies, particularly those on monoclonal...
Yeah, you get what he's getting
just
at,
said
right?
Yep.
severe. Other of those studies, particularly those on monoclonal antibodies, showed several of them in the clinical trials to be effective at first against Delta. We know now that a couple of them, except for one, has now lost some of its effectiveness. There's another group of studies called ACTIVE, and there are 6 of those, and that stands for Accelerating COVID-19 Therapeutic Interventions and Vaccines, and the whole gamut of oral, IV, monoclonal antibodies, direct antivirals. And as I mentioned in my opening statement, antivirals like Paxlovid and Molnupiravir, the original research had been done in the early trials by the NIH. But importantly, in direct answer to how we know what to use, the NIH has put together a guidelines panel made up of 48 highly qualified clinicians and individuals with experience in COVID-19 to give a prioritization of what you do if you're infected and with advanced disease in the hospital, as well as what you do as an outpatient. And they're fairly clearly delineated in the guidelines, which is easily accessible by just going to the NIH website and going to nih.gov and then guidelines panel. And people can get a good idea, clinicians throughout the country and the world, of how to use these antivirals. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to follow up. I am grateful that the administration heeded my call to send FEMA teams to New Hampshire to help administer COVID-19 treatments. However, the teams were delayed in arriving and are scheduled to stay only for a short period of time. So, Dr. Fauci, what additional personnel and support is the administration planning to provide to New Hampshire and other states to help treat COVID-19 patients in the most effective way possible?
Well, there are several things. Perhaps Assistant Secretary O'Connell can answer, but I can start off by saying that there are surge teams right now, at least 60 surge teams, that have been deployed to help those areas that have difficulty because of the surge and the fewer volume of cases to be able to handle them with regard to everything from hospitalizations to treatment and other implementations.
And I appreciate that
You sure there's nothing else that
What
they're
is a
actually
surge
activated
team?
for?
Of cases able to handle them with regard to everything from hospitalizations to treatment and other implementations.
Why does he always look
Frogman.
over? What is he
Oh,
looking at?
he's looking for
What's
a
up?
lifeline. What is a surge team?
It's right. It's exactly what you think. If I'm thinking the same thing that you are on that or whatever. It kind of sounds like it's a sector of FEMA activated people that will actually go into those areas that are most affected to actually try taking care of that group of ill people. So I mean, it sounds a little bit more drastic than maybe necessary or whatever. Sounds like they're actually trying to go
That's putting
somewhere
it
with it.
mildly.
Well, I'm trying to appease Susan, so.
Oh yes, good stuff then.
So I mean, right, exactly. I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to stay alive on YouTube.
I'm trying to do my
Again,
job here.
Susan, we're not doctors. We're not trying to tell people what to do, how to do it, when to do it. We're just listening to your experts and trying to understand where they're coming from so that we can actually make informed decisions.
Precisely.
And I appreciate that Assistant Secretary O'Connell is in a good position to follow up, and I would like to follow up after the hearing. But I did want to ask one other question to Dr. Walensky. We've long had problems with accurate state vaccination data in New Hampshire. It's come to light that the CDC's data on New Hampshire's vaccination rates is also inaccurate. Apparently, the CDC can't consistently distinguish in its data between first doses of the vaccine and boosters. And as a result, the agency...
What's going on?
Oh, I'm just shocked. Their data is inaccurate.
Yeah, right.
Accurate. Apparently, the CDC can't consistently distinguish in its data between first doses of the vaccine and boosters. And as a result, the agency incorrectly records boosters as first doses, officially raising the vaccination rate. The CDC's data is inaccurate for other states as well. We've been looking at this.
No, this is known that they've been doing this, that the inaccuracies or whatever, because like people lose their card or they go from place to place trying to find a place to actually take care of themselves to actually get their proper shot. And it's like the booster shot's nothing different than what the other stuff is. It's all the same stuff. It's just like, oh, we should give you a third dose because the first 2 doses aren't covering the new variant, which is kind of confusing in itself. And it's like, well, wait a minute, why do I need to take a third one if the first 2 are doing the same thing? That it's the same stuff. If you don't know that it's what the difference is between the booster and the first shot, it means they're administering the same exact whatever, the same exact shot that they give you in the first place. Whatever's inside that vial, it's the chemical compound isn't being changed. It's the same exact stuff. They're just like, oh, there's a new variant, so we should give you another dose just to be sure that you're actually safe from that one too. And that's where some of their studies are coming up, and they're like, well, is it actually covering the new variant. And they're like, well, yes, but you have to take the boosters for it to actually cover it. And it's like, well, if it's, you don't know if it's a booster or a first dose, you didn't change the chemical compound on what you're actually injecting these people with. It's really kind of confusing on how that
All I
would
know is
actually
they're
work.
making bank off every little bit of it.
So,
You know what I mean?
let's see. So then Grim says, if they're calling boosters for shots, it lowers the rate, not increases the vaccination rate. This lady needs to learn how to read and understand simple concept. And that's what that is right there. We'll throw that up on the screen. So, and let's
for other states too. So what steps is the CDC taking to resolve these data inaccuracies? And when will the CDC have accurate data for New Hampshire?
Thank you, Senator. This is a really important question. So CDC is the compiler of the data, and we rely on the state immunization services to provide CDC the data at the state level. Now, among the challenges with these accuracies is that if people don't bring in their card, they are counted as a first dose when, in fact, their card would have been a third dose, and we rely on the states to work to reconcile any differences if a person put in a middle initial on one card but not on another. And we're working closely with every single state to increase the accuracy. We're encouraging people to bring their cards because that also increases the accuracy. We recognize this challenge, and we are working state by state, including in New Hampshire, to reconcile these inaccuracies to get them more accurate in our comprehensive reporting of every state.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you, Madam
How is
Chair.
it this
So
difficult?
it's pretty much the same answer that she gave for the last thing. I mean, they're all
How is
just
it this
repeating.
difficult to know people you put a needle in?
Well, see, that exactly what she was saying is, you know, if you didn't bring your card, or say you went and you, for whatever reason, went and got your second, and you changed the way you wrote your name on it or whatever, it wouldn't be recorded as being the same person because your middle initial is changing your name. The whole thing is just,
That's so ridiculous. You should already
it's
be in the
giving me a
system. Why do you
headache just
gotta?
thinking
Why do you
about
gotta
it.
even write your name down again? You should be able to be pulled up in the system. All right, let's get you a booster. Bam, mark down. You
Well,
have
and
now
see,
gotten
and
your second.
that's the problem is they can't actually pull it up in the system or whatever because people aren't just going to a specific spot to actually get their doses or whatever. They're running around the city, going to different places, you know, from the CVS to the Walgreens to the clinics to the whatevers
All
to
ran by the same
get their
people, bro.
doses because they're like, oh, I need this. They're telling me I need this. I got to go find somewhere to get this. And my dose is due today. I have to go make sure that I get this covered today. And they're like, well, that place had a full line. So I'm going to go to the next place that maybe doesn't have a full line of people and I can actually get my dose there. But then they're not bringing their card with, they're not bringing, or they're changing the name on their card for whatever reason. Why I don't understand the whole middle initial thing or whatever. That one's a little, it seems a little far fetched on that to actually bring something such as that up to, you know.
Is there an investigation into any of this? Like an ongoing one?
There should be something
there's
that's
too
actually
much-
ongoing because they actually told you, they told us, I want to say it was probably at the beginning of the month or whatever, that certain, because they were like, they didn't have to release information for like 50 years or something to begin with.
Yeah, that was
They
nuts.
changed that. They changed it. They have to actually release this information sometime in the fall. So you know,
Oh, good. I wanna
there
hear
has
that.
to be some kind of stuff that's actually being recorded so that they can actually get the correct information. And if they
You can't just
need to
lock
get
that
this
shit up
information
for
to us
50
in the
years down
fall
the
as
line.
opposed to in 50 years, because in 50 years the majority of the people that would be in the population is not going to be the same. So it would be, people like us wouldn't be asking these questions any longer or whatever, because in 50 years, potentially I'd be, in my 90s, and, not paying attention to any of this anymore, because, there's a good chance, in my 90s, I may not actually be here any longer anyway. So I mean,
Well, a good chance this
that's
country
what
might
they're
not be
actually.
here any longer.
Well, right. Then they're trying to cover all that up, and
That's what we're here
when
for.
they were actually told that they have to actually release this in the fall, I found it very interesting that they said that, because I mean, I was talking to Shirts the one night, and we were both just kind of like, oh dang, that's going to be quick, because I mean, how fast was it? How fast did 2021 go?
Oh yeah,
Imagine
dude,
how
it's gonna
fast
go by like that.
2022 is going to go. Right, it just went super fast. So I mean, this is going to come up really quick, whatever us, and they're going to be like, release the information that we need, and pushing the stuff that they're actually trying to push, and to actually make sure that people are actually doing what they want you to do, as opposed to doing what you want to do by yourself. They're like, you don't get an opinion, because you being unvaxxed is actually just as bad as both of us being unvaxxed. You're gonna, because
Oh yeah, executed
and
for
that's what
being
that's what they keep on pushing, is that's what's happening or whatever. So it's the pandemic of the unvaccinated. Why were these documents seals in accordance with the classified government data? It's BS. This is the epitome of overclassifying to conceal from public. This is from Grimm. So, I mean, he's actually hanging out in chat for me, which is very nice. But
yeah.
Sonny's question was,
But
why are these document seals in accordance with classified government data? Right. Why, they're not part of the, CDC's not part of the government. The NIH is not part of the
just
government.
as shady as the Epstein thing, sealing the Epstein files.
No, and I agree with him. So then he says Roe v. Wade hasn't been law for 50 years. And it really hasn't been a law. It was just something that went through the courts or whatever to actually be, to give, footwork to places to actually be like, oh, Planned Parenthood needs to be a thing, so that way people have an easy way of taking care of their unplanned children. So it's like, it's all very disgusting on their behalf. So the government.
What year was Roe v. Wade passed in?
It's been around since, I could not give you an exact date without actually going and digging it up and looking it up or whatever. But yeah, it's been around for a good.
Google.
I want to say it was like 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey Google, when was Roe v. Wade introduced?
Here's some information from the web that might possibly help. According to Wikipedia, Wade, 410 U.S. 113, was a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the Constitution of the United States protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government
Get
restriction.
to the fucking point.
Grim just answered 1973.
Oh, thank you.
So, I mean, and that's why I said, when you're done eating your dinner, and you totally should, click that link and come on in here.
Just tickle the kinky link.
Give us your intelligent insight
I'll just say that what I'm hearing you say to the general public is it's really important to help with the accuracy of that by keeping your card, taking a photo of your card, making sure that you're sharing all your information at the site where you're getting a vaccine or booster shot.
Very helpful, yes, thank you.
Which, when you actually started thinking about certain things, like, you should have your card with you at all times. You should always, you shouldn't, change and deviate names or anything. My thought is they should put it on the backside of your driver's license or your
Don't
state
give 'em
issued
ideas.
ID. Well, the idea is that's the same one that you would use to actually go and vote with.
Ugh.
Think about that for a second. Because there's, they just, I mean, they've been talking about it for the last few days here, whatever, where President Biden is actually, trying to do what he can to do away with these voting laws or whatever that were brought up by Republican legislatures in each one of these states or whatever. So because they're actually bringing certain things up, they're like, well, and like you said, don't give them ideas, but let's give them the best idea. If you wanted to actually implement this, across the board and actually make sure that everything was taken care of correctly and properly the way it needs to be, that's where you put it, on the backside of your ID, your driver's license or whatever. So that way it's actually in the system where it needs to be. And then when they actually tell you, come voting time or whatever, when they say, oh, you don't need an ID to vote, but you need to make sure that you have your vaccination card with you because, whatever reason, it's all just wrapped up into the same thing, as opposed to it just being a separate issue of, oh, if you're not vaccinated, you can't vote.
I'll tell you the opinion, or my opinion on the vax cards after the show.
You can throw it in private chat as well.
Okay.
Oh, you can't see it. You're on your phone. You can't see it.
I can see the private chat.
Okay. You can throw your opinion in there as well.
Alrighty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Marshall.
President Biden inherited a vaccine, a distribution plan, trillions of dollars in funding, but unfortunately this administration has chosen to put all its eggs in one basket, prioritized unconstitutional vaccine mandates and testing. Yet comparing 2021 to 2022, COVID infections have increased 72% and deaths increased 27%. This we know. If you look at this data, your current plan is not working. The current plan is not working. We need therapeutics at warp speed. Ms. O'Connell, who is responsible for this failure?
Trump. That's what she's gonna say. No, I'm just kidding.
Senator Marshall, thank you for that question. We are making 6 therapies available to the American people free of charge.
Who's responsible for the failure?
Senator Marshall, we continue to make therapies available at warp speed to the American people.
The Biden administration has allocated over $80 for testing and only $15 million on therapeutics. It's obvious that your plan has failed. We can't keep throwing good money after bad money. This is insanity. We have to admit our mistakes and go a different direction. Ms. McConnell, would you commit to an Operation Warp Speed for therapeutics?
Senator Marshall, thank you. Therapeutics are part of Operation Warp Speed, and that's how we have the 6 therapies that we're currently making available to states free of charge.
They'll be available after Delta is already been come and gone, and also after, of course, Omicron will be said and done as well. Dr. Fauci, 59% of Americans and 81%.
He pretty much just told her the way it was. You listen to him closely when he actually says that, because he's like, well, that'll happen after the Delta's gone, and it'll probably happen after the Omicron's gone. And beyond to that next, variant or of whateverness.
To states free of charge.
They'll be available after Delta is already been come and gone, and also after, of course, Omicron will be said and done as well. Dr. Fauci, 59% of Americans and 81% of Republicans do not have a favorable
Oh, we're on
opinion
Deltacron
of
now.
you.
Don't you know, man?
Frankly,
No, yeah, right, exactly. We're already starting to move on with, some of that. I like his question because what he just asked Dr. Fauci here.
81% of Republicans do not have a favorable opinion. After, of course, Omicron will be said and done as well. Dr. Fauci, 59% of Americans and 81% of Republicans do not have a favorable opinion of you.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that many people do not have a favorable opinion on Dr. Fauci? Why? Because he was actually put in place under the Trump administration, and he's still here under the Biden administration, and he's done the same stuff the whole time and lied through his teeth and hasn't told a single bit of truth on anything.
Frankly, honestly, you've lost your reputation.
He should have. How long has Operation Warp Speed been in effect? Is speed better than effect? So during that period of time, you didn't come up with these therapeutics, and get them out. Sorry, buddy, I'm having a hard time actually reading your comment or your question. So during that period of time, you didn't come up with these therapeutics and get them out. I got to read that again. He should have said, how long has Operation Warp Speed been in effect? Is speed better than effect? When it comes down to it, no, not necessarily is speed better than effect. I mean, we've actually, witnessed, this happen or whatever. They've rapidly tried putting stuff out or whatever, and people are not, they're just as susceptible of catching as the people that haven't taken anything. Basically,
well, the speed is what causes the hesitancy, right?
Yeah, pretty much. When you think about it or whatever, you're like, well, wait a minute.
Well, because
you're just going to go and push this out
blinds.
there. You're going to set up, you're going to say, okay, now there's a new variant, and you're going to push the same exact chemical at us and say, oh, okay, now you should take it. Oh, no, now you should take it. Oh, no, okay. Now that you hadn't listened to us on the first 4 or 5 variants, now we're on to another one. You should definitely take it.
Yeah, it's like obligatory for people at this point. It's like, well, I took the other one.
Basically say that they had 2 years to get this done. Why is it not out yet? Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, Graham. Though it's been going on for 2 years, and we know where Operation Warp Speed originated from. Why they're actually keep on pushing speed instead of actually accuracy or effectiveness is really kind of mind-boggling in itself. They should have actually, there's a lot more that they could actually do in that period of time, and taken their time and tested it to be sure that it was actually, something that was actually going to work for what they're trying to do. Did you have a thought?
I had one, but she got away.
Oh, okay.
The American people don't trust the word out of your mouth. Every day you appear on TV, you do more damage than good when it comes to educating the public on COVID. Suppose you were leading a team in an effort to try to get people to stop smoking cigarettes. But every time your spokesperson goes on television, over half the nation goes out and buys a pack of Marlboros. wouldn't you stop that person from appearing on national television?
Yes, technically you
Yes,
would.
they would.
Because, right, technically you would, because you know that it's not actually being effective for them to actually keep pushing something as ridiculous as they're pushing. Again, Susan, we're not doctors. We're not trying to tell people what to do, how to do it, when to do it. We're just watching a video.
Correct.
Everybody should actually go and see their doctor and do what's best for them.
100%.
Senator Marshall, I believe that's a real distortion of the reality. If you look at everything that I've said on TV, it is to validate, encourage, and get people to abide by the recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Look at everything I've ever said.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci, I
Get
understand that,
vaccinated,
but perception
get
is
tested.
reality.
Yeah.
And you're hurting the team right now.
yeah.
You are hurting the team right now. Dr. Fauci, you previously told this committee under oath that NIH and NIAID have never funded gain-of-function research with the EcoHealth Alliance. However, a report from the Department of Defense Inspector General released yesterday states that EcoHealth Alliance approached DARPA in 2018 seeking funding to conduct gain-of-function research on bat-borne coronaviruses. This proposal, named Project Diffuse, DEFUSE, was rejected by DARPA because the project didn't address the current research's potential to violate the gain-of-function moratorium. The proposal does not
Which we
mention
now
or
know
assess
isn't true.
potential risk of gain-of-function research.
Right.
We now know that DARPA, in fact, held on to those documents and maybe used them for later consideration.
Research's potential to violate the gain-of-function moratorium. The proposal does not mention or assess potential risk of gain-of-function research. That's a direct quote from the DARPA rejection letter. The same proposal rejected by DARPA for gain-of-function potential was not rejected but by NIAID under your leadership. You funded Project Diffuse and its research that took place at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Why did you tell the committee that your agency has never funded gain-of-function research? Why did your agency award this grant despite it being rejected by DARPA due to its...
So basically, if you actually look up gain of function, and even come across it on Wikipedia, which would be, you can take it for what it is. If you actually look up the difference between, gain of function research on the differences between the gain of function research on vaccines versus the gain of function research on something else, the answers are the point is a little bit different. And basically, gain of function in vaccine was, I'd have to look it up again to get the correct wording on it or whatever. But basically, what it was is it was gonna make it easier for, like, I think the for instance was a particular disease that was only available in seals. If you actually messed around enough with certain areas of gain of function or whatever, you could actually make it that not only were the seals able to just to get the particular disease, but now you could actually get like a rabbit to actually have the same exact disease by injecting them with, certain things that would actually change their, molecular antibodies in their own body, whatever. So it's kind of an interesting ordeal on that.
Did you
So
catch what
then-
I dropped in the private chat?
I did.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah. So Grimm says, my interpretation of the DARPA documents is that the virus has been created to inoculate bats from coronavirus, but I'm more than likely wrong. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what they, it's like they were trying to actually, stop these bats from actually having this particular virus or whatever, and they made a mistake, and they're unwilling to tell you that they actually made a mistake. Because if they go and they tell you that they made the mistake, then it's like, oh, no, shut it down. Stop doing what you're doing. Don't even move on any longer. Just totally stop. And, people like Dr. Fauci doesn't want that stuff to stop, because the second that stuff stops, he's no longer getting paid. He needs stuff to actually continue doing what they're, things to continue going the way they are, so he can continue to get paid. We've seen how much he got paid yesterday, whatever. Somebody actually brought up something about pay, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it was something that's yet to come, and it was from the day before when I was watching. So, I've watched this several times, and it's really confusing because the answers are never answers to the questions that they're asking. They always just give you a different answer and be like, well, so this is what we know. You get a 17% chance of actually this and 20% chance of actually dying. It's like, well, that wasn't the question.
Concerns about violating the moratorium that was in place. And finally, will you commit today all records fully unredacted by the end of this week so Congress and the American people can know the truth about NIH's role in the origins of COVID-19?
So again, Senator, it really pains me to have to just point out to the American public how absolutely incorrect you are. What came out last night on Project Veritas was a grant that was submitted to DARPA. Then it distorted and said, we funded the grant. We have never seen that grant, and we have never funded that grant. So once again, you are completely and unequivocally incorrect when you joined the DARPA proposal.
No, that's not true.
Was a grant that we never saw.
So you notice how irritated Dr. Fauci got, and when he got irritated,
He's on the back foot.
No, right. Exactly. When he gets irritated, you can see it, because his whatever he's got, his Parkinson's or whatever, seems to flare up.
You are completely
look at his
and
hand.
unequivocally incorrect when you joined the DARPA proposal, grant that we never saw and we did not fund. So you are incorrect.
Our social media will have all the supporting documents, and we'll be supporting these for the record as well.
You're backing down on this? Why don't we go and look at the Veritas statement? They were talking about a grant that was submitted to DARPA.
Are you saying this was not? Are you saying that this was?
Okay, I got some stuff here that come from Grimm. Got to go back a few. More or less, the legislature said you cannot have a round peg going into a square hole, or a scanner function. The Dr. Fowle said, well, too bad, here's a square hole.
No,
yeah,
I probably cannot say this on YouTube, so I'm going to put it in private chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say Covet was introduced to the bats, and then after a period of time, humans contracted it. Period of time, humans contracted it, men's contracted it. There would be a break in the attribution. Is the attribution, and the government would not be found out. I'm really having a hard time reading this text. There's no punctuation, which I'm not picking on him for his punctuation at all. I'm having a hard time actually deciphering what he's actually saying.
You want to pop in the private chat and just give me a yes or no on that?
I'm agreeing. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I pretty much, that's pretty much what this is.
Okay.
That's my thought on it. And
And now they've changed the definition.
Right. They just changed the definition on things to make it, not so,
Big bad.
right. Doesn't sound as bad.
Okay.
As viral gain of function research.
Telling you that you're saying.
Are
that
you
we
saying
funded
that
the
this was
DARPA
not viral gain of function research?
grant? By definition, you are very well aware.
Oh,
Your P3CO definition.
we was just talking about this.
Uh-huh.
Telling you that you're saying.
Are
that
you
we
saying
funded
that
the
this
DARPA
was
Because he can go and he can change the definition to what he wants the definition to be. That way it makes
Yep.
it easier for him to actually say what he needs to say.
not viral gain of function research?
by the
That is not the
definition that you
operable
are very well
definition.
aware.
Oh,
What
Your
yeah.
P3 is
You
just
know,
a
you-
legalese to get away
Senator
that allow
Marshall,
you to do the
This is
viral
what
gain
I'm
of
talking
function
about,
studies.
Senator.
Senator Marshall, if you'll please allow the
Yeah.
witness to respond.
Get him.
Senator, we know, and the
So if you could technically be correct, you can apply for a grant to multiple sources within the government, which means the lab could have went to DARPA and went to him, so he didn't see the grant. So if you could technically be correct, you can apply for a grant to multiple sources within the government, which means the lab could have went to DARPA and went to him to see to him, so he didn't see the grant. Yeah, I mean, I had to read that a couple times to actually catch that correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's basically he didn't know that the grant was there. He had no clue about the grant because the grant went from one place to another without going through him because it didn't need to go through him. So he doesn't know.
information that the guide rails for what can be done or not were not established by me. They were established by a 3-year process led by the Office of Science and Technology Policy of the White House.
And decided by you in a secret meeting at the White House in December of 2019.
Senator, that is incorrect.
Oh, where? Where?
Grimm says Fauci could be correct.
Policy of the White House.
And decided by
Tonight, bro.
you in a secret meeting at the White House in December of 2019.
Senator, that is incorrect. And this refers exactly to what I was talking about in response to Senator Rand Paul. You are incorrect.
Yeah, you don't like
completely,
him,
and
do you?
every time I try to
Keep saying
explain,
you're incorrect, but the facts are on my side.
So-
why will you not commit to sharing everything
Marshall.
open,
Senator
unredacted
Marshall.
with this Congress?
so
Senator
here's an
Marshall,
example.
Dr. Fauci, this hearing is critically important to the American people. There are
No kidding,
millions
so
of
stop
people
interrupting.
infected with the COVID virus.
Right.
It is impacting every part of our economy. Every family
Shut up,
is
bitch, we
asking
know.
for answers to critical questions. Both sides of the aisle have asked tough questions, but we are not going to allow this committee hearing to be another personal attack that undermines our ability to deal with this.
He's just asking a question. He wants his questions answered, and he's refusing to answer the questions.
So excuse
Terrible
him for getting
virus
a
that
little
is impacting
frustrated.
so many people. I will then turn to Senator Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks for saving my ass.
Thank you, Chair Murray, and, well, I'll just let that go.
Yeah, go figure. I'll
So,
just let
as
that
we
go.
move into the third year of the COVID-19 response, it seems to me that our strategy is shifting. We are shifting from a goal of trying to get to 0 COVID cases to eradicating the virus, and our goal is really much more about minimizing the damage of this pandemic. You and I have talked about this, Dr. Fauci, as well as with Dr. Walensky. So we need, of course, to minimize hospitalizations and deaths caused by COVID. We do that through vaccines and through therapies. We also need to minimize the COVID damage by understanding how to keep kids in school, how to keep businesses open, and how to protect against the damage that is caused by social isolation and burnout and other stresses that injures our mental health.
You're
It
fucking
seems to me that
false.
while this is happening, while COVID continues to seriously stress our healthcare system, and while we still have people in this country, including, sadly, some members of Congress who continue to spread misinformation and lies about the pandemic. So it seems like we have to.
Grim says, decided by you in 2019. That is after the fact. It broke out in August 2018, didn't it? Also, if it was approved in secret meeting in the White House when Trump did it, or then Trump did it, that senator was all over the place. August 2019. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the way they actually named COVID-19 was off of the year that it was actually started in or whatever.
It was when the population discovered it,
COVID-19
because all
has
those
to be an
deaths that they
acronym
tried to
of
cover
something.
up in China were way before that.
Right. But in the White House, it was actually in this secret meeting, whatever, it was under Trump's administration. And yeah, it happened in August of 2019. I don't think you, you weren't around yet. There's one YouTube thing or whatever that I had produced, whatever, that got my first warning off of for medical misinformation or whatever. And obviously, I won't go into it. I'll put it in private chat here in a minute.
After the show. Oh, perfect.
But I believe I've explained it to you before.
You could, and you might have. You might have.
Yeah. But
I
yeah,
just need a little reminder.
it is something when you actually think about it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's where they got the name for COVID-19 was the year that it was actually quote unquote founded, whatever it was in 2019, or where they actually coined it, gave it a name.
No, I like founded.
To be realistic, that these cycles of until it becomes endemic are going to continue. We're going to probably continue to see some unpredictable variants arise. Madam Chair, I just want to say that I hope that this committee can find some time to discuss these issues as they relate to.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, this chick, she said, and I'm sure we're going to see more variants arrive. It's like, how could you possibly know? I thought that once a disease goes through enough variants that it just dies out. It kills itself because it can't handle it. Can't handle it. Can't handle all those mutations.
Yeah.
And she says it's for sure. It's for sure, basically, that we're going to have more. It's like, how do you know? Most certainly.
Some unpredictable variants arise. Madam Chair, I just want to say that I hope that this committee can find some time to discuss these issues as they relate to global vaccine strategy, because this is going to be crucial to our work to protect Americans' health as we go forward, since we are not an island. But let me ask, I'm very interested in how we think about the data that is important for Americans to keep in their minds as they're trying to measure relative risk. Last week, public health experts published some interesting articles that suggested that we should maybe think about incorporating COVID-19 data into aggregate risk for all respiratory viruses that are circulating, including the flu and RSV. And that maybe this data, if we could look at it in real time from medical facilities and ERs and so forth, testing facilities, private homes even, would give us a better picture of what's happening. So let me ask Dr. Walensky and Dr. Fauci, if you could talk a little bit, I want to understand about this. I want to understand how you think about this question of relative risk, how we should be transitioning and what we consider from daily case counts, for example, to looking at other data, and particularly how you evaluate this idea of looking at all respiratory illnesses in one basket.
Yeah, Senator Smith, this is such a critically important question. Thank you for raising this. So we have to do two things simultaneously. Right now, we're dealing with an Omicron surge where we have the most number of cases we've ever had in a day in this country. And so we have to get out of this Omicron surge. But in the meantime, we have to look down the field and we have to understand, what is this going to look like when we're not in a surge? How do we deal with endemic disease? And what do we start looking at with regard to endemic disease? And you're absolutely right. We need to think about the severity of that disease, because now with 62% of Americans vaccinated, some of that disease is not as severe as it was.
I don't believe that that number is correct. 62%. I could be totally wrong, but I don't believe that number is correct.
That's a success of our vaccines. We have to look critically at hospital capacity. What can our hospitals handle? Because if people are coming in with COVID, or if hospital staff are out with COVID, that's a really important measure that we're going to look at. And one of the things we probably still are going to examine, although perhaps with less import, is the actual number of the cases. And why that's important in general is because it generally foreshadows what's coming into the hospital. So knowing that and understanding what that might mean for the future of hospitalizations, future severity, future capacity. And all of those are things that we're looking at right now. But one of the things that you critically mentioned was our efforts in data monetization. How do we take the efforts that we've had so far with COVID and increase them, continue to keep the pedal to the metal, as it were? When we started here, we were not collecting racial and ethnicity data. We didn't have a way to link in a personal... I'm
going to push that back a few. And Jim says we're in a P-micron surge. The most cases ever. That's what happens when a wave hits, especially a novel strain. Obvious fact is obviously obvious. And then he rolled his eyes.
As it were. When we started here, we were not...
No, after reading that, I understood what you were saying. It's the Omicron, not the P-micron. Yeah, we're in an Omicron surge. Most cases ever. That's what happens when a wave hits, especially a novel strain. Obvious fact is obviously obvious.
Collecting racial and ethnicity data. We didn't have a way to link in a personal, with personal identifiers removed, electronic health records with our testing records. We had 187 hospital systems who could do that. Now we have 10,000. So what we really need to do is scale up our data monetization efforts and do it, as you say, not just for COVID, and not just for other respiratory diseases like flu, RSV, as you note, but for all diseases. So we're looking at doing this for maternal mortality, for sickle cell disease, for opioid injury, for many, many diseases, and this is going to be the power of our data monetization efforts, and I'm really grateful for resources from Congress to be able to leverage those. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I believe I'm out of time, but I have other questions if we have a second round.
We will have a second round. Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here today. You know, this administration has been in charge of the federal COVID response for a year. I have to say I don't think it's been a job well done. Our federal government not only sets the tone and the guidance for how millions of Americans should be handling COVID.
Now this guy, you see this guy, gray on white? This guy, he's well-dressed. He's got a nice tie.
We set the standard for the world. Our information has to be correct. I continue to hear that we need to follow the science, and I agree. But we have to yet hear the clarity from this administration. We hear conflicting guidance across the board. In order to be effective, guidance has to be understood and implemented by the average American. But most Americans can't make heads or tails of anything coming out of this administration. So we are all of us, are failing this test. One thing I do know is that when we finally, toward the end of this thing, Congress is going to have an investigation. We all know that. We've heard that the FDA and President Biden say 55 years will be needed to share data related to a lot of those decisions. But we will have to investigate.
Right.
That'll be.
Right. Everybody's, whatever that's sitting in their curtain chairs aren't even going to be there.
Yep.
And
They're all going to be dead, and
you
culpability
may
will
still be
far
around, but
lost.
in 55 years, do you think, me being, in my 40s is still going to be around? I mean, I'd like to maybe possibly still be around. I mean, I had the inclination the one day that, and this is a while ago, probably, I think it was when I was around like 32-ish or something or whatever. I'm like, I still felt like I was just a young man or whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to be, we're going to be the next age group or whatever that we're going to actually live until we're about, 120 years old, just because of the way things actually are. But, after the last 2 years, my mind on that has kind of changed a little bit, where maybe it's not as much. Oh, and look at that. Let's both say hello, Grim. Hello, Grim. He says 1 second. That's fine. We're going to wait a few minutes or whatever before we move on, because I'm going to actually take it back a few notches to listen to this guy.
Good over.
Full. Hey, what's up, man?
Not
How you
too much,
doing?
man. How you doing?
Welcome.
Did you enjoy your dinner?
As best I could.
Did you pay attention to your dinner?
I don't remember what I had. Nah, we went and hit the Wendy's. They
Oh,
closed
there you go.
too, so we went and knocked that out. Anyway.
Okay, so I went back to the beginning of this guy, so we can actually hear this guy.
I go
out
back
again.
now, y'all. All right, cool.
For a year. I have to say, I don't think it's been a job well done. Our federal government not only sets the tone and the guidance for how millions of Americans should be handling COVID, we set the standard for the world. Our information has to be correct. I continue to hear that we need to follow the science, and I agree. But we have to yet hear the clarity from this administration. We hear conflicting guidance across the board. In order to be effective, guidance has to be understood and implemented by the average American. But most Americans can't make heads or tails of anything coming out of this administration. So we are all of us are failing this test. One thing I do know is that when we finally, toward the end of this thing, Congress is going to have an investigation. We all know that. We've heard that the FDA and President Biden say 55 years will be needed to share data related to a lot of those decisions. But we will have to investigate. This group will have to investigate and have the information before 2076. Heck, most of us won't be here in 2076. This investigation will look into who had authority to make decisions. I know there are more people making decisions behind the scenes. So what I'd like to know is, I'm just concerned how badly the response has been. It's handled, President Biden's handled this in his first year. We've heard all the pluses and minuses. This administration took office with 3 successful vaccines and numerous effective therapeutics, and basically drove the response into a ditch. At times, it doesn't seem like anyone's in charge. You started the year by dismantling Operation Warp Speed, canceling contracts for monoclonal antibodies, underinvesting in testing, and we've spent billions in that, first with Delta, now Omicron. People can't find a test. I'm getting texts as we speak, sitting here, where do I get a test? We spent billions on this. If we can't find a test and test positive, they can't get treatment. Monoclonal antibodies are rationed, antiviral pills are months away. So I just got a simple question. Of all of you up there, and whoever wants to answer this, if you have a problem and your coordinates, who do you go to? Who is the head coach of this virus that you have to go to, whether it's in the administration, whether it's one of you. Dr. Fauci, who do we go to?
Question.
The person who's in charge of
I love that question.
What's up, Graham?
Didn't she just freaking say that the pharmaceuticals were part of the Operation Warp Speed? And that they were going to be out soon?
Yes, she did. She said, well, I don't know if she said pharmaceuticals. She said therapeutics.
There we go. Therapeutics, not pharmaceuticals. Thank you.
I don't know how different that really is from each other, So I mean, it's
therapeutic or pharmaceutical or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. So I mean, okay, yeah. Pharmaceuticals are more like the pill form of things, right? Okay.
Yeah, the therapeutics.
I had to think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, crack myself.
Again, you were right. It was therapeutics. But anyway,
we're not doctors. We're not actually telling anybody what they should do, not do whatever. They should actually go and contact their doctor and do what's best for themselves.
Yep, absolutely.
If it wasn't already abundantly clear that we're not doctors.
Right.
Yeah.
That is Jeff Zients.
My question, though. So she said that the therapeutics were part of Operation Warp Speed, and he just said that the Biden administration dismantled Operation Warp Speed. And whenever I Googled it just now, CNN did a thing about Operation Warp Speed being retired, and this was in January of this year, or last year. So does that mean that that Operation Warp Speed was basically had its heels cut out by the Biden administration, and that's why those therapeutics aren't being created? Because then if she's saying that the therapeutics are being created through Operation Warp Speed, and Operation Warp Speed no longer exists, then that's a whole bunch of what the hell, right? You're misleading the people. So that's a problem.
Yeah, it's completely totally a big, huge problem.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Right.
Oh, they renamed it?
Did they?
January 15th. They'll rename it citing Trump quote-unquote failures. Okay, so I did not say what the new name will be.
Just like they said they weren't going to continue to build the wall, but apparently that wasn't true either.
It's not a wall. It's a barrier.
Change the name of it so and so that way you can change the definition.
Yeah, isn't that part of the plan? Build barriers better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the person who's in charge of that is Zients, who is
what the guy's name's Jeff Zients.
Jeff Zients. Can you go back? Jeffrey Zients, Council President of the United States. Jeff Zients, White House Response Coordinator, leads the whole government response to COVID-19 pandemic and the implementation of U.S. Presidential Exit Emergency Plan for the AIDS relief, PEPFAR, while also furthering global health initiative priority policies. Okay. So why is there an emergency plan for AIDS relief, PEPFAR?
Fauci ain't done with the gays yet.
Nope.
Dude. I don't know who Jimmy is. He attacked my channel.
Shit. I ain't say nothing. I'm tiptoeing.
You broke your pinky toe.
Of this virus that you have to go to, whether it's in the administration, whether it's one of you. Dr. Fauci, who do we go to?
He previously served as the National Economic Council.
the person who's in
Oh my God. All right, you ready to hear about this Jeff Zients guy?
Yep.
Zients previously served as the director of the National Economic Council and assistant to the president of the economic policy for President Obama,
Go figure.
and as acting director of the Office of Management of Budget from 2012 to 2013. He managed 2013 tech surge of healthcare.gov, that fucking travesty of a thing. Let's see. Prior to joining the administration, Zients spent 20 years in the private sector, and his expertise in business strategy, process reengineering, financial management spans range of industries and regions. That the whole bunch of nothing. So basically, this guy was the director of national economic policy, where the U.S. gave out stimulus checks to American citizens through taking loans from China to stimulate Chinese economy. Great. So this guy's already a double fuck up, and we put him in there for a third time.
Nice.
Cool.
That's great. More fuck ups. That's what we need.
Yeah, this guy already had two major fuck ups.
We don't have enough trying to run a government right now. We need a couple more.
Yeah, this guy's already had two major failures.
Is that a fuck up?
It's I don't
know.
But it said 2012 to 2013, right? The healthcare.gov thing. So I'm wondering did Obama basically give him the boot? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like he got the boot in 13 or whatever. So I mean,
yeah, because he was his economic.
Trump didn't take over until 16, so yeah, makes it sound like he got the boot.
Yeah. Oh well. To be fair, the Economy Council and assistant to the president of economic policy under Obama, that was during 12 and 13 as well. So he worked on both the OMB and the National Economic Council assistant. So that was after the whole BS thing with the whole collapse and bailout and everything. So
interesting.
Yes, that was after that, so it's not fair to attribute that to him. So I'll take that back.
Okay, we'll see what Fauci has to say about Zients.
In charge of that is Jeff Zients, who
in the White House.
At the White House, and we meet very, very regularly. The entire medical team, as well as others, going over all of the data, going over what the strategies are, going over what.
So I can't help myself but notice that the whole time that Fauci's talking here, he's playing with his mask.
Yeah, he's trying to keep his hands busy. He doesn't want his hands to shake.
Right. He's keeping himself busy but he's playing with his mask.
Yep, he'll squeeze on it like it's a stress toy. I've seen him doing that.
Which that's not good to be.
But it's his mask, and he's touching a desk.
No, right, exactly.
That's what he's pointing
at.
It's
not good
right?
that he's actually doing this or whatever. That's not proper usage of the mask.
Hello?
It's funny.
The issues are, what the problems are, what we've done right, what we've done wrong. We examine it literally continually, sir.
Has he done a good job?
I think given the circumstances that we're in right now, I believe he's done a very good job. I really do. This is an extraordinary virus, the likes of which we have not seen even close to in well over 100 years. It is a very wily virus. It has fooled everybody all the time, from the time it first came in to Delta to now Omicron. Very unpredictable, and we're doing the best we possibly can.
Yeah. Dr. Walensky, it's been reported by some virologists and scientists that this year around 170 people have died from taking the regular flu vaccine. The vaccine advisory adverse by some virologists and scientists that this year around 170 people have died from taking the regular flu vaccine. The vaccine advisory adverse reporting system reported that the number of people dying after or following the COVID vaccine is actually in the thousands. Now, this is what I'm hearing. I'll give you a chance to refute that or confirm it here. Is this true? Are we having that many people die after taking one of these vaccines?
Senator Tuberville, thank you for that question. The vaccine adverse event reporting system is a mandatory system of any adverse event that happens after being vaccinated. So if you get hit by a car tragically after getting vaccinated, that gets reported in the vaccine adverse reporting system, the VAERS system. So the vaccines are incredibly safe. They protect us against Omicron. They protect us against Delta. They protect us against COVID. They don't protect us against every other form of mortality out there.
Do we keep numbers of people that died following taking a COVID test from taking this vaccine? Do we have any idea? I'm just asking.
I'm sorry, those who have died after taking a
Died
COVID
following
test?
taking the vaccine. Is there any number count? Do we keep records on that died of just from?
Absolutely, yes. I couldn't give you the absolute number off the top of my head, but our staff could absolutely get back in touch with you. We collect
sure
those data.
You know, Dr.
What's up?
Oh, it's so scummy. This question was vitally important, and she doesn't even know the answer. She's like got all the stats that she needs, but all of a sudden, when one of the most important questions of the night comes up, it's like, sure, I don't have that off the top of my head.
Grim seems to be having some issues. He dropped
What a
for whatever
boomer.
reason.
I
don't know
never
if
have
he's
issues.
having issues getting back in here, or if his damn it is for something else.
He did say hello.
Fauci,
That
you have any clue on that?
About how many died after?
Hope nobody
100?
busted up in his crib.
Off the top of my head, back in touch with you. We collect those data.
You know, Doctor, you have any clue on that?
About how many died after?
100?
I don't know the number, but I think it's really important for people.
You can turn on your
Microphone.
I'm sorry. I don't have a number, but I think part of the
don't
confusion
ask.
is that when you do a reporting,
Yeah, you don't have
if
it.
you
Just shut
get
the fuck up.
vaccinated and you walk out and get hit by a car, that is considered a death. I mean,
Why? Why is that considered a death?
He's like, yeah, it's not letting him connect to the restream. That doesn't
try,
make sense.
Try putting it. Are you
He
going
should-
through Discord? If you're going through Discord, try putting it through Safari. Like, copy the link and paste it into Safari.
Well, or yeah, I mean, try right, reconnect it through your browser as opposed to going through. He's
The
concerned
Discord
that he got
browser.
banned.
Oh.
I don't think that he's banned. If he got banned, they would have just shut me down.
Oh yeah, we would have all been kicked the hell out of here.
Right. Here he is. He's just having personal issues. Welcome back.
Saw, dude.
Maybe.
Oh. It's the thing that I had. The evil sickness. I see him trying to talk.
It's the evil sickness of trying to connect.
Oh no.
No. There we go.
There's a grim.
that's the thing that gets confusing, that everything that happens after the vaccination, even if you die of something completely obviously unrelated, is considered a death. So if I had metastatic cancer, got vaccinated, and died 2 weeks later, that's a death that gets
I
counted.
understand that. Yeah.
And every one of
What?
those is adjudicated.
Go back. Did he just say what I think he
Yeah,
just
this is
fucking
what
said?
I just said.
He
It's so
did. He
messed
said
up.
that basically the numbers
he
have
did.
been
He
inflated.
Remember how-
inflated.
Hold on, I
Right.
gotta tell my wife this. Okay, love. Remember how I
Even
said,
if you die of something completely obviously unrelated,
Let's
I gotta
get
take my
you to
headset out so she can hear
considered a
this.
death. So if I had metastatic cancer, got vaccinated, and died 2 weeks later, that's a death.
Tell your wife. Go ahead.
Hey, don't tell me what to do. Hold on.
So remember
Go
how
go tell my wife.
There's
or-
weird
oh,
correlation between pushes for vaccinations and then vaccine or then COVID deaths in the U.S. How it's really weird. How as soon as there's a big push, then there's this big wave, right? And I was like, they're like 2.5 weeks apart or whatever, about 2 weeks apart. What's going on with this? Can you go back just a few seconds so that she can hear this?
Sure. It's to a whole car accident.
Do a reporting if you vaccinated and you walk out and get hit by a car. That's considered a death. I mean, that's the thing that gets confusing. Everything that happens after the vaccination, even if you die of something completely obviously unrelated, it's considered a death.
Why?
So if I had metastatic cancer, got vaccinated, and died 2 weeks later, that's a death that gets
I
counted.
understand that. Yeah.
And every one of those is adjudicated.
Yeah. One quick question before we get through here. I'm in rural Alabama.
You okay, Jimmy?
So what he just said was, instead of it being COVID deaths, it's just deaths.
Right, it's deaths after being vaccinated. It's not.
You get shot in the head. Oh, COVID death.
The difference between dying with
They're
and
talking
dying
about
from.
death rates between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated.
Right.
Is that just deaths fucking period?
That's exactly what it is as opposed to them saying that, dying with or dying from, is they're just going to lump it all together and be like, well,
Well, that's not what he said. Right? He said, if you get vaccinated and then you die, that gets counted as a COVID death.
Right. And that's
So
what I
look
said.
at the numbers, and they have
The difference is ridiculous because they're not actually saying that it's from the shot or from whatever. They're saying it's no matter what, regardless if it's from or with, it's being recorded as the same and being inserted into their VIRS program or whatever. It's going to inflate the numbers.
Tremendously.
Right. So you don't even
If you had a 100% vaccination rate in the U.S., every single death would be a COVID death.
Right.
Period.
Right. No matter what you died from or whatever, you could fall from a 10-story building.
There was the guy who was working on the top.
It's still a COVID death as long as you actually.
I mean, Chad Reed was a COVID death. Bob Saget was a COVID death. Betty White was a
George
COVID
Floyd
death.
was a COVID death.
George Floyd was a COVID death. The guy, Chazzle Dazzle's parents were COVID deaths.
Every single person that's died in the last few years has been recorded as, as long as they, because I mean, I doubt that they're even separating the difference between somebody actually being jabbed and non-jabbed.
So then, on their statistics, when they're saying, now let's look at some other definitions, right? So when you're looking at death rates for COVID-related deaths and the unvaccinated versus the fully vaccinated, I mean, fully vaccinated includes fucking boosters. But if you have one jab or two jabs, then if you haven't been boosted yet and you die, you're technically counted as an unvaccinated COVID death. So is that what they've done? Is that the reason why the numbers are so high?
They're actually trying to push.
I mean, I see it right here. Like, I can see it in my mind's eye, right? Like,
right.
So for example, right?
But they can't. They can't see that. They don't see what we're seeing. So.
Yeah, let's say all three of us go the way of the river, right? Jimmy has neither, right? I would just have one or two of the first series, and then you Koolfrogg would have the booster as well, right? The question comes down to, are all three counted as COVID deaths in the statistic where Jimmy, who does not have any jab, gets lumped into the unvaccinated group as a COVID death? Or is it that because I have a jab, my first part of the series, right, no booster yet, that would be, based off of what Fauci's saying, I would 100% be counted as a COVID death.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the statistics, I would be listed under unvaccinated COVID death, right? and you, Koolfrogg, you would be counted as a vaccinated COVID death. So the question is, whether or not they're including Jimmy in the statistics. Because if they're including Jimmy into the unvaccinated statistics, right? Because you got to look at definitions, right? If you're not fully jabbed and boosted, you're not considered vaccinated.
That's right.
Right. So there's a reason why the unvaccinated death rate was so high. It's because damn it, it pisses me off. Because if people aren't getting boosted and you're counting them as not vaccinated, and you say, "Oh, look, the unvaccinated death rate's so high. Look at this. Look how deadly this is. Everybody go get a booster."
I assume you're going to be clipping this, Grim.
I'm about to fucking do it. Like, that's literally like, that's what they've done. He just admitted it. It's a complete
after you clip it, you just put a big, huge question mark on it.
It's a complete obfuscation of the truth.
And did you see this guy in the gray? He's just total. He's like, "You understand?" And he's like, "Yes, I get it."
You understand? Yes,
like,
I'm on board.
What the hell was that?
Because I bet you look at his stocks. Look at what he's invested in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This gray motherfucker?
Yes. Look at his stocks and
What's
what he's
on his
invested
lapel
in.
pin?
Okay.
What is his lapel pin? That better not be
congressional
freaking
pin.
FBI.
They all have one.
Okay.
They all have the same pin on.
Congressional. Yeah. That's insane.
It is. It's totally insane.
Yeah.
Let's see what else he had to say.
Yeah, this isn't about
But I
medical
get one of these home tests, and I test positive.
like that.
I have
You should listen to your doctor.
asymptomatic.
My rant was purely about, and it is purely about, the framing of arguments and the rearrangement of data that's being done to intentionally mislead the public, because that's what's going on here. The way it's framed is messed up. It has nothing to do with the health of an individual, whether or not they should go see their doctor. That is not what it is about. It is purely on reporting.
Right.
That's it.
Get one of these home tests, and I test positive. I have asymptomatic. What do I do? People call, what do I do? I don't have a doctor around. What do I do?
Thank you. So you're asymptomatic?
Pardon?
You're asymptomatic, no symptoms, feel well.
That's what fucking.
You stay home for 5 days, and the next 5 days, if you continue to be asymptomatic, you can go out, wear a mask, don't go traveling, don't go to gyms, don't.
But I get real sick, then what do I do?
Then, well, first you go and call your physician. And in fact, I'd say you call your physician regardless. But call your physician, call your provider. If you're continuing to have symptoms, then you stay home until your symptoms resolve.
No therapeutics.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I would say call your physician and see if you're eligible for therapeutics.
A lot of these people don't have physicians.
And
They've got a drugstore.
Senator, we do
Thank you.
need to move on.
Thank
you. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
damn
Thank you,
you,
Ranking
bitch.
Member Burr. This hearing is so very important. I really want to thank all of the witnesses here for testifying today. Your continued work, thank you so much as we combat this pandemic in real time, And so first, I just do want to echo the concerns my colleagues have raised about.
Sorry, man. After they said those numbers and what they're doing on their counting, it's I don't know what to believe anymore.
Believe the science.
Oh,
I'm a little fucking irate right now, boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going on. I'm just, yeah. I'm past tired, so.
Man, I mean, that's ridiculous. I am so ate up right now that is actually what they're doing. And I was being facetious when I made that argument. When I was talking to my wife, I was pulling one out of my ass, like, "Oh yeah, I bet this, ha ha ha. Oh, they're probably doing something like this, being cynical."
Even
as
last
shit.
year,
and then it's true.
Even last year, we were hearing about that like motorcycle death in Florida. I heard about that was contributed to a COVID death. That's that same shit.
I mean, the guy who self-immolated is counted as a COVID death.
Yep.
From the talk
If
about the
this
double
guy
O
that got
donut
the pig
video.
heart dies, that'll be a COVID death.
Are they including people who are not vaccinated in the COVID death statistics?
We don't know that yet. We'll find out in this fall.
Work, thank you so much, as we
There's actually a way
combat
to
this
find it out.
pandemic in real time,
Because
real time. So first, I just do want to.
No, yeah, I agree with you. There has to be a way to actually figure that out.
you look at the
And
U.S.
it's
death
simple and
rate.
easy by
Look at the
actually
US
just
death rate.
going in and looking at,
Let's see what.
any obituary or whatever.
Well, let's look at the U.S. death rate.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. If you actually look at the death rate compared to
8.2 deaths per
previous
100,000 in
years.
2016.
Right.
Okay, so 8.2 per 100,000, or sorry, for 10 per thousand. So
we're still under the amount of normal deaths that would have had occurred on a regular basis, because people have been set in their houses, locked down.
well, the excess deaths are actually down. Yeah, I thought the
Right.
excess deaths were high.
No, if you actually look at the numbers, they're actually down. It's just that they're inflating those numbers to make it look different than what it actually is.
Okay, so this is 8.2 per thousand gives you 0.0082. Now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this by the total population of the United States. So that's 326,690,000. That's 2.6 million a year in the US. So I mean, that's enough with, if you look at the, God, I'm ate up about this.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's listen to what this lady has to say.
Yeah.
I want to echo the concern my colleagues have raised about access to testing, both in-person PCR tests and the at-home rapid tests. We do know that home test kits are scarce. Americans are standing in extremely long lines for COVID test, and hospital emergency departments in my home state of Nevada have seen a significant increase in people coming solely for tests because there just aren't enough alternatives. And so this is just really only adding to the stress, as again, I can speak to Nevada on our health systems. Nevada's been expanding our testing options, but increased federal support on the ground in addition to home testing we feel is absolutely critical, and in the future the federal response must be more proactive in this space. And so I'm a little bit concerned about the testing keeping up with the variants, because this is all happening in real time. COVID is evolving. You don't know which strain may become the dominant strain. And so we want to ensure, just in addition to the effectiveness of the vaccines and therapeutics, that the testing accuracy must also keep up. So Dr. Fauci, with some recent reports about the current variant settling more in the throat than in the nose for some patients, what are we doing with the development and deployment of rapid at-home tests based on saliva versus a nasal swab? And then, Dr. Woodcock, how rapidly do you think the over-the-counter testing can be delivered, approved, looked at, approved, delivered to the American public to make sure that they're less anxious?
Thank you for that question, Senator. Yes, there have been recent reports that, in fact, the sensitivity and the ability to detect in a swab of the throat versus the nasopharynx, at least with Omicron, that's a preliminary report. I think it needs to be validated and verified. If the data are strong enough, then the company, whatever who makes that, will likely go to the FDA to ask to change the indication because the emergency use authorization is for a nasal swab. If the scientific data indicate that it's better to get an oral or other swab, they would present that to the FDA.
It's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, what kind of swabs are you talking about?
Well, you know
Where
the
else-
COVID
where
farts
else
thing,
would you
right?
like to swab, sir?
I want to put it on my butthole, sir.
Okay, so I would leave
My
that
name
to
is Jack
Dr.
Murphy.
Woodcock to answer the rest of that question.
Thank you.
Certainly. Well, we can act very rapidly, but first I would like to say people should not use swabs that are designed as nasal
that test and
swabs
shove
and
it
try
up
to
your ass.
swab their throat. They may stab themselves, okay? That would not be good, okay? What we need to do is have tests that, see whether the throat swab, as Dr. Fauci said, could provide more sensitivity. We do know the tests are picking up Omicron, but right now with less sensitivity than they did some of the other variants. As far as time, as I said, after the ITAP program does the testing at NIH, FDA has been able to authorize within a day or two of getting those data. However, the companies would have to change the test configuration to accommodate the swab, the larger swab that you'd use in the throat. That's probably what would take the most time, as well as seeing whether that was better.
And to continue with that point, as we've seen with some of the testing, the reagents or the materials that it really takes to use the test, is there the ability for people to return a test that might no longer work? Can those agents, any of that, be recycled or upcycled if they're returned to the company unopened? Like, how do we not dispose them and not get some recyclability out of that? Is that possible in some way?
We can get back to you on those parameters. Be happy to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
They're just going
I'd like
to take
to
them and
talk a
throw them
little bit.
away so that they can sell more.
Right.
But again, people are talking about the public health data. We're noting about all the daily statistics, we're noting about the statistics about possibly death. And so positive or negative, critical, this data is critical even for us to make our decisions as far as what we fund. And sometimes there's notes to say that we shouldn't include home testing in the daily statistics because they might not be reliable. So Dr. Walensky, to build on some of that testing and the statistics that you need to do your job, that all of us need to do our job, how is the CDC working with the state, local health, our hospitals, to be sure that the voluntary self-reporting guidance it is going to be accurate and give us the kind of statistics we need going forward?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Senator. So we are routinely reporting PCR tests. That is what is routinely reported from the state, and that is what our updated statistics are. There's passive reporting that occurs with rapid tests, but I also want to understand the importance of rapid tests, at-home tests, for people to be empowered to use these rapid tests to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. So regardless of whether we can count them, generally they tend to be people who have milder symptoms. They might have been vaccinated, have a runny nose, and they decide to go and get a rapid test and do the test at home. Less important is counting that case than it is that person stay home, isolate, do the right thing, and not be forward transmitting. So I think that many of these tests have different...
cases? Are you counting people who buy COVID tests as COVID cases?
We can only guess.
Doesn't matter if they report it.
Right. We can only guess that's, hopefully
because people are only going to go buy a test if they're showing symptoms or something like that. So go on ahead and count anybody who buys a test. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe with some kind of scaling coefficient.
That's
But one of the really important purposes of these rapid tests, even if we don't count them, is to empower the public to do the right thing through this pandemic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wait. Go back. Yeah, about another 10 seconds if you don't mind. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
not
you
to
so
go and
much.
get a rapid test and do the test at home. Less important is counting that case than it is that that person stay home, isolate, do the right thing, and not be forward transmitting. So I think that many of these tests have different purposes, but one of the really important purposes of these rapid tests, even if we don't count them, is to empower the public to do the right thing through this pandemic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Senator Romney.
Even if,
Thank you, Madam
or
Chairman.
even when we don't. If and when are important, right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a couple of thoughts. One, it's been 2 hours since we've been here. One of the people at the low level out in the hinterlands. Just a couple of
Oh
thoughts.
my
One,
God,
I think it'd be
it's a
helpful if
rhino.
and please excuse me for this comment. If the
Not the one with the H. That's
Hold
an
on.
animal.
All right, look what we have here.
rankings
on.
were limited
It's a
their
rhino
opening
in its
comments to the
nature.
5 minutes,
Prohibited.
just like you expect those folks to limit their comments to 5 minutes. We didn't get started until 25 minutes after asking these folks their questions. I do want to note also that in this process, as I'm sure you who are testifying here today recognize, that some of what we do is performing, and some of what we do is to become informed. And I do both from time to time, so I'm not just in one camp or the other in that regard. But I do want to point out how much I personally, and I believe the great majority of the people in our country, respect you individually and professionally for the work that you do. You are scientists, not politicians.
They're not scientists either.
Nevertheless, you are being made
Bureaucrats.
subject to
Get it right.
the political whims of various political individuals, and that comes at a high cost, which unfortunately I fear will lead some to not want to participate in helping our government make scientific choices. But I very deeply appreciate your commitment to the American people and your desire to do things as well as we possibly know how to do. That doesn't mean they will be done perfectly. Doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. Doesn't mean there won't be changes from time to time. Sometimes as data comes in that's different than what you had anticipated. And sometimes just because you were wrong. I mean, it's the nature of being a human being. That's where we are. I think, unfortunately, the administration was wrong in not building.
We don't need you to sit there and tell them that you're a rhino. We all know.
Yeah, he's running top
testing
cover.
capacity at a time when we all thought COVID was kind of going away. I remember the summer and the fall, going into a grocery store, into a drugstore and seeing 2 rapid tests on the shelf, and those things stayed there for days. No one was interested in buying a rapid test. And apparently the administration didn't think that it should be aggressively building rapid tests. But Omicron came along, caught people by surprise, and we were obviously badly mistaken. The administration was, and we're suffering in part because of that. Let me ask, with regards to Paxlovid, Ms. O'Connell, is that being subject to warp speed? My understanding is that Paxlovid is far superior to other oral antivirals. Should we not be much more aggressively producing that and getting that out such that it can be prescribed?
Thank you, Senator Romney. We're in active conversations with Pfizer about how to increase their time limits. My understanding, and
Gee, somebody's trying to buffer his stocks.
Right.
Scientists on the panel can feel free to jump in, is that the process required in order to generate this particular antiviral is months long. It's a chemical process. It's one that's very, very hard to accelerate. What we have been able to do is to find additional doses, to work with Pfizer to try to unlock additional capacity where they can find it. And we're continuing to do that actively.
Thank you. Dr. Walensky, good to see you again, and appreciate the chance we had to speak earlier this week, or last week rather. As I've looked on the CDC's COVID tracker report, I note the data goes through November 20th, and I remember my days in business, if we didn't have daily information, we couldn't make good decisions. And I wonder, do we need to invest in either developing a new sub-agency or a task force to get basically on, immediate data, daily data, so we know what's going on. And that's not just for the public, that's for those of you who are making those decisions. Do we need to do a much better job moving faster, getting data?
Senator, first of all, let me thank you for your earlier comments. But
So what he just asked was, excuse me, as a conservative, do we need to bloat the government more by creating more alphabet agencies in order to track and get data? Like that's what he just asked. Romney just asked if the government needs more fucking bureaucracy created.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
No.
Okay, good stuff.
Romney just asked her if the government basically needs to stand up a new agency or task force for collecting data. That's right. That's conservative, right? Expand the government, make more.
Right.
also to comment on our COVID data tracker, I think you're speaking to the 27 jurisdictions that we now compile data that allows those jurisdictions to report together their testing data, their cases data, their immunizations data, their age data, as well as their death data. It's over 2/3 of the country that we do, and we update that about once a month, and it's about 3 or 4 weeks in arrears. So mid-January, we will be having data through the end of December, and it simply does take that long for our jurisdictions to compile those data. And of course, our death data are generally lagging. It takes a while for those to get reported and adjudicated. So we're now updating those. They're about 6 weeks in arrear, and we're working hard to keep those in real time.
Yeah, I know retailers like Zara, for instance, they apparently get data and correlate it daily. So I'd hope we could find a way to increase the speed with which we get that data. I know my time is up. I'm just going to make a comment, and that is that I think it'd be helpful if people knew when they should get tested, when it's called for, because I think a lot of individuals, myself included, get tested when there's no indication that I need to get tested, other than just want to make sure I'm not sick. And there's huge demand for tests which are in short supply in part.
Oh my!
You catch that?
Yeah, let's hurry up and I take one on a regular basis to make sure that I'm not sick. I mean, you can't tell.
I mean, go back and listen for her voice. Go back about 10-15 seconds and listen.
We could find a way to increase the speed with which we get that data. I know my time is up. I'm just going to make a comment, and that is that I think it'd be helpful if people knew when they should get tested, when it's called for, because I think a lot of individuals, myself included, get tested when there's no indication that I need to get tested, other than just want to make sure I'm not sick. And
she giggles.
Just want to make sure I'm not sick.
And there's huge demand for tests which are in short supply in part because of that. And number two, when you say when people have been exposed, please let us know what it means to be exposed. We're in a room right now. I'm sure someone here has Omicron. Are we all exposed and therefore need to get tested? What does it mean to be exposed, and when do we need to get tested? I know that I wanted to ask that of Dr. Fauci. I can't do that given my time.
Senator
Those are
Romney,
topics I'd love to have
Senator Romney,
elaborated
I
on.
think
Thank
that
you.
is a question we all want answered, and I will give Dr. Fauci the opportunity to respond to that.
Dr. Fauci?
Yeah, let him.
Well, the CDC guidelines make that very clear, and it is if you are exposed to an individual with known, if you are in a period of 15 minutes at a time or a total of 15 minutes over a 24-hour period in a situation where you come into close contact. Perhaps Dr. Walensky could expand on that, but that's the fundamental core of the CDC guidelines.
That's exactly right in terms of the definition of exposure. In terms of who should get tested, you should get tested if you have symptoms of COVID-19. If you do a rapid at-home test and you continue to have symptoms and that test is negative, you should do another test or get a PCR. You should get it tested within 5 days of your exposure or after 5 days of your exposure with the definition that Dr. Fauci mentioned. And, we're testing through test to stay and other mechanisms as well. So many reasons to test, but really most
Test to
importantly,
stay?
if you are exposed, if you have symptoms, and also if you're going into a setting where you might be seeing an immunocompromised person, somebody who's vulnerable, not able to be to take a vaccine.
Thank you very much. Senator,
Yep, I'm going outside. I don't know, man. This is
sadly is we're just getting about halfway through everything that they go through. They got another seriously almost 2 hours to go.
Oh my!
Well, we'll just slowly
Are
keep
you trying
chipping at
to?
this every day. Just keep
You
chipping at
trying to
it.
cut it here, Frogman?
Let's go one more. I have to step away for a second, so I was hoping you guys could hold the conversation.
Yeah, we got it covered.
Okay, I'll be right back, you guys.
Bet.
Well, yep. Dude, what a fucking shit show, dude.
Oh man, this is just it makes me lose faith just by the second in our country.
Yeah. Like, I want the actual number of people who caught COVID and actually died from COVID. I don't want I don't want the altered statistics. Oh, they got a vaccine and oh, look, now it's a COVID death. Right?
Mm-hmm. No,
What
it's
Fauci
all
just
fucked up.
did, what Fauci just did in that
Yeah.
statement and with what they have done, if somebody were to get the shot and have a a bad reaction to it, right, and they end up dying from that bad reaction a week or two later, they would be considered
Yeah.
a COVID death, even though it wasn't COVID.
Right, it would
was
have been the
the
jab, right? Yeah.
But it'd be counted from COVID. And if it was their first one that killed them, it would be a unvaccinated death. This is
Just the level of deceit,
fucking
man.
abhorrent. They just came out and was like, yeah, we've been manipulating you guys forever.
Who is supposed to hold these people accountable? Like, if somebody lies on the Senate floor, who is responsible for punishing them for it?
I think they can go to jail, but that goes false executive, I think. I think they file motions and do some stuff on the legislative floor, and then it goes to the executive. And they go do stuff, but I could be wrong. Probably wrong on that. It's mostly speculation, but I'm pretty sure
Okay.
the legislative has ways of holding them in contempt.
Well, I'd like to see some motherfucking heads roll.
Yeah, I think we all would like to see some heads roll.
Like, I want the unmolested statistics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unrosenbaum statistics.
I want the absolute truth. I don't want some fluffy, bull
Don't
crap
just give me
that
some
they're trying to push out.
generalization, conjugate fucking data. No. I want the data. Every person, every one of their deaths, what they died from, what their comorbidities were. I want all of that data, and I want it in a fucking spreadsheet.
Yeah, there's
Every
a lot of
single
information that they're holding that I'd like to actually see. Proper
When did you
numbers.
say April?
What about April?
Is it in April that we get those documents?
The fall.
Sometime in this fall.
So like 9 months from now.
Well, we'll see if we circle back around to that.
Right. So let's hit the play button here. Let's see what we come up with next.
Casey.
Chair Murray, thank you very much for this hearing, and I want to start by commending the public service of all of the members of the panel, Dr. Walensky, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Woodcock, and Assistant Secretary O'Connell. This is difficult work, and we appreciate your public service. In particular, I want to reiterate statements I think I've had to make before in light of Dr. Fauci's commendable public service, not just in the middle of this pandemic, throughout the pandemic, but also for decades. I think I speak for a lot of people back home and across the country that not only have confidence in your integrity, but also your work in public health, and so we're grateful for that.
Before I answer the question, let me stick my head up your butt.
Let me start with a question for Dr. Walensky. Doctor, I'm quoting from a statement you made on Friday on television in the context of a question about COVID-19 deaths, and I'll quote two sentences. One is, quote, "The overwhelming number of deaths, over 75%, occurred in people who had at least 4 comorbidities." So really, these are people who were unwell to begin with, and yes, really encouraging the news in the context of Omicron, unquote. Now this statement, and I know it was part of a broader interview, caused great concern. I know from my work as a senator for years that you and your team at CDC, whether it's the policy or the work that you do, that policy and that work are both focused on ensuring that all Americans receive the best possible treatment and protection. This is especially important for older adults and people with disabilities who may need additional supports and protections. So context is important in an interview like this. So please explain what point you were making. That's number one, the point you were making. And secondly, outline CDC's commitment to protecting older adults and people with disabilities as we continue to address the pandemic.
Senator Casey, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to explain this. And, to step back, that interview on Friday, I recently spoke to a study on the high level of protection against vaccines. It was a pre-taped interview, and much of it was cut, and that phrase was taken out of context, as you note. The study was a cohort of 1.2 million people who were vaccinated, and 36 people passed, demonstrating the remarkable effectiveness of
Okay. What did she say there? How many? Only 36 people out of how many million?
The study was a cohort of 1.2 million people who were vaccinated, and 36 people passed, demonstrating the remarkable effectiveness of our vaccines. But no less tragic is the 36 people who passed because of COVID-19, and that many of them had comorbidities that I've spent my career taking care of, comorbidities that just...
What made that funny?
Wait a minute. See, wait a minute. This is such bullshit. If you go in for a test, like I've signed up for some of these like random crazy drug tests, that you go in and you get paid for taking a pill or whatever. You have to be in perfect health. You have to have no comorbidities. You can't smoke weed. You can't do any of that. Nothing. You have to be on no medication. No, you can't be overweight. You can't be under height. Like, they want you perfect for that test. So I don't believe her.
Effectiveness of our vaccines. But tragic is the 36 people who passed because because of COVID-19, and that many of them had comorbidities that I've spent my career taking care of, comorbidities that just prior to coming to the CDC, we saw time and time again disproportionately impacting people with COVID-19 and the hospitals that I cared for patients. So what are we doing at CDC given the critical importance? Well, we have toolkits for COVID-19 for patients with disabilities. We have accessible materials that are available in Braille, in American Sign Language, so that people with disabilities, in easier to read and understand language, so that people with disabilities can access our materials. We have improved data collection systems on our COVID data tracker. You can track vaccination status by disability. And we've worked with states to make sure that those are reporting. And then we're funding partners and our public health partners to do more for patients with disability. And if anything, this issue on Friday has redoubled our commitment to continuing to make sure that we have access for people with disabilities. Thank you for allowing me to clarify.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the time you took to respond. I would also suggest and maybe even ask you to spend some time meeting with leaders from both the disability and aging communities to walk through what you just walked through and even expand beyond that.
We're already planning. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I want to turn now to vaccine development for children. The recent setbacks in vaccine trials for children under 5 is of great concern. So many parents are exhausted from this pandemic. So I know we can't change the outcome of the trials, but we can take steps to reassure parents that their young children will still get vaccinated as soon as possible. Dr. Fauci, Dr. Woodcock, if you could briefly talk about these trials and anything you can tell us about speeding up the development of safe and effective vaccines for children under 5.
Do not touch my child. You don't get to actually dictate who, what, or when. I don't think so. I'm so sick of this crap.
Thank you for that question, Senator. I'll take a quick shot at it and then pass it over to Dr. Woodcock. The situation that I believe the public needs to understand is that the trials from children from 6 months to 4 years was broken up into 2 groups. It was 6 months to 24 months, 24 months to 4 years. And in the dosage that was used, the children, the younger group, the trial met the endpoint of non-inferiority, comparing it to what would be the standard of what would be success. However, for the middle group, the 24 months to 4 year group, they did not meet that standard of non-inferiority. So because of that, it was felt that this likely will be a 3-dose vaccination for children in that group. So the trials are being done now as quickly as possible to see if they can get that data to have a uniform dose and a uniform regimen. But I'll pass it over to Dr. Woodcock.
Can you go back to what
Yeah,
he just said? I just got back and Dr. Fauci answered. Sorry, I went out for a smoke and I ended up going on a fucking rant. My wife. Can we?
Thank you for.
Can we modify the smallpox death stats, please? Because, smallpox, even though it's gone extinct and been eradicated from this planet, it's the greatest killer of all them baby boomers. I mean, look at these death rates. All these boomers that got the smallpox vaccine dropping like flies today, right? That pandemic is crazy right now, because that's what they're doing with these stats, right? Oh my God. Anyway, sorry.
Exactly.
I'm
No,
ate up.
For that question, Senator, I'll take a quick and then pass it over to Dr. Woodcock. The situation that I believe the public needs to understand is that the trials from children from 6 months to 4 years was broken up into 2 groups. It was 6 months to 24 months, 24 months to 4 years. And in the dosage that was used, the children, the younger group, the trial met the endpoint of non-inferiority, comparing it to what would be the standard of what would be success. However, for the middle group, the 24 months to 4-year group, they did not meet that standard of non-inferiority. So because of that, it was felt that this likely will be a 3-dose vaccination for children in that group. So the trials are being done now as quickly as possible to see if they can get that data to have a uniform dose and a uniform regimen. But I'll pass it over to Dr. Woodcock.
Yeah, well, of course, I can't say a lot, but we are working very closely with the manufacturers of the vaccines on accelerating and making sure that vaccines are available for the
Why
youngest
can't you
children.
say a lot?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Murkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chairman.
I can't say a lot because of our NDA and
It
crony,
says a lot
crony
about
dealings.
2021 when the most appreciated gift under the Christmas tree in our family was COVID kits for everybody. I'm still getting thank yous for those. Dr. Walensky, there has been a lot of discussion here
Oh,
today
yeah.
about
Thank you.
Can we pause
some of the
here real quick?
confusion with guidance and
Sorry, I can only take. God, make my skin crawl.
Hey, it's a COVID
sorry.
kid.
Never mind. I'll save that for off the air. Yeah, I'll save that for off the air.
Okay.
It's best. Yeah.
I feel
It's gonna
that.
be. Yeah. Sorry. So when are we planning on wrapping up tonight's show? Just out of curiosity.
Six more hours.
Koolfrogg?
I think he went to get a shot.
Oh, probably. Well, while he's not here. Oh, we lost him. Hey, my stream now, motherfucker. So, haha. So, the thing that was kind of, I put it in a private chat, but basically, I'm predicting based off of how they're keeping statistics right now that I'm predicting 280 million COVID deaths in the next 80 years. Because anybody who had a jab is counted as a COVID death.
Yep, that jives.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
so counterintuitively, okay. Counterintuitively,
I'm with you.
people are getting shots to prevent dying from COVID. But based off of how they are keeping statistics, the only way to 100% guarantee that you will die from COVID is to get the fucking shot.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get the shot,
it is
technically
it's 100%. You're technically speaking, based off of how they are now keeping stats, based off of what Fauci said, a jab equals
let's
a
not
100%.
exactly say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that jives perfectly. Wow.
So
they could have ridden that
all
out
these,
for as long as they wanted to. Right?
Yeah. And what's crazy is everybody's like, I don't want to die from the coof. I'm going to go get this shot. When they get the shot, they're guaranteeing that they will be counted 100% as dying from it. They're guaranteeing it. I am actually disgusted. Like, actually disgusted. I feel sick to my stomach. Welcome back, Koolfrogg.
Yeah.
I had to
Sorry, I just
myself
went off
a couple times. I was kind of going.
No, and if you guys would have caught the chat, I said, stay with me.
discovered
I'll be right back.
something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I don't know. You might want to end up pulling the stream down and clipping this bit out. But basically, people are going and getting the jab so that they do not die from COVID, correct?
Correct.
What did Fauci just tell us?
No, right, exactly. Exactly.
you
When
get
you
the
actually
shot-
hear what he actually said and you listen to how he said it, it doesn't matter. So
No, it does. Here's why. The only way to guarantee that you will 100% die from COVID in the statistics is to get the shot. So people are going and getting it thinking they're not going to die from it, when in the statistics, they are guaranteeing that they will.
Right. Okay, so let's listen to this lady and then we'll wrap it up. Or let's listen
Grim, you gotta
to this
cut out of that,
this
man. That needs
series
more-
from this
more,
lady and her questions, and we'll wrap this up.
I am not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice. Nothing I said should be construed as medical advice.
Right. None of us are doctors. None of us are trying to push
This is-
anything or tell you to do anything. You should actually see your doctor and do what's best for you.
Yes, this is my statement is merely on the reporting and the way the statistics are being used. It is purely bookkeeping point that I'm making. It is not a medical point. It is bookkeeping, not medical.
Okay, so let's listen to this lady and the responses that she gets, and then we'll wrap it up for the night.
Oh, sounds great, man.
It's for everybody. I'm still getting thank yous for those. Dr. Walensky, there has been a discussion here today about some of the confusion with guidance and just some very clear asks to tell us what that is. So a question that I'm going to forward to you from a teacher is if the teacher is fully vaccinated, boosted, tests positive for COVID, but after they test positive, they feel pretty fine. There's no fever, there's no nothing. After 5 days, can that teacher return to school without testing negative, just so long as that individual wears a mask?
Yes.
You're going to test positive for like 2 weeks or
That's
2 months, right?
exactly what I needed to know. I'm going to be having
Yeah,
a
'cause you're gonna test
meeting,
positive for a couple
Zoom
months
meeting
afterwards.
later this afternoon
Isn't that
with
right?
several
So it doesn't
different
fucking matter.
Alaska-based companies that have more than 100 employees. They're quite concerned about the mandate that requires testing of unvaccinated employees. We all know that this is under litigation now, and things may change on that. But right now, their real concern is if this goes into place and we are required to ensure that these unvaccinated individuals receive testing. Right now, testing all around the state is in limited supply. The front page of the Anchorage Daily News shows the line of cars that are waiting to get their PCR tests. You can't find the at-home tests available in the stores now. It is becoming harder and harder. And then again, if you really do have a mandate in place, it's going to require this. So I know that the question has been asked about what more is being done. I know we've heard the extraordinary federal resources that have gone that way, but the facts on the ground remain that we are in an extraordinarily short supply of testing, whether it's the at-home kits or whether it's the ability to get the testing that you need. It's cold back home right now, and my hearts go out to those workers who are working in the outdoor drive-in, where they have to go out when it's 20 below, as it is in Fairbanks. That's more of a statement rather than a question there, but I think it is important for folks to realize that we are still in a very difficult place when it comes to accessibility. Dr. Walensky, this is a question for you, and you and I have had many conversations last year about the specific impact of conditional sale orders as it relates to the cruise industry. That industry was effectively shut down for all of 2020, and we were able to salvage a bit of it as things relaxed last year. But in fairness, the industry itself has undertaken extraordinary precautions as one industry to make sure that people are protected from this virus. So the question to you is, I want to make sure that Alaskan communities and businesses can have a season this coming year. And right now, people are making their decisions as to whether or not to book a trip to Alaska for the summer or not. I understand the conditional sale order is set to expire in a few days.
Just ask the fucking question.
In recognition that the companies have practices that adhere to or even exceed the guidance in the order. So I guess I'd like some assurance from you that they can count on that this is clear guidance and messaging to those within the industries and to those who are counting on being able to have a season this coming summer.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. And I think the conditional sale order and the fact that the industry has stepped up and is now interested in doing and exceeding, as you know, the compliance with the sale order without the order even necessarily needing to be in place is a real testimony to how well that has worked and how we worked collaboratively with the industry. What I can say is that, just over the last 2 weeks with Omicron, we've seen a 30-fold increase in cases on ships during this season because of Omicron. So while I anticipate that with ships following conditional sale order, we still will continue to do the oversight and watch and do all the technical assistance and support in every single way. We anticipate that this order will not be renewed and that the cruise ship industries will continue to understand that this is a really safe practice for those industries. What I can't predict is what the summer will bring.
Understand that, but for right now, you expect this guidance to stay in place.
That's my anticipation.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Hickenlooper.
All right, can we unlive ourselves now?
Now it's on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so
I drank all my hard liquor yesterday. Fuck.
What's
slide?
Just click it. That's
stop screen share.
Suicide. Yeah.
Why don't you guys go ahead and show yourselves out real quick, and then we'll go.
Hey, Jamie, you go first. I went first yesterday.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it. You can follow me at the Atlas Pass on TikTok. I have a video that's going semi-viral right now, so that's pretty cool. At the Atlas Pass, that is, once again, and on YouTube here, I am Jimmy YouTube, and on Twitter, I am Real Anime Rich. _ and capitalizations. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm Grimsbar. I have a channel called Grimsbar. It's here on the YouTubes. I do a lot of meme stuff. I also play video games. Typically, I'll take the video game stuff and I'll live stream it, but I'll end up making it private just to kind of save the watch hours and to keep the channel from getting all cluttered up. But I do do a lot of live video gaming and stuff, and quite a bit of shit posts.
I did make sure that Grimsbar's YouTube channel is in the links down below as well. So
he is phenomenal, by the way. Check him out. Honestly.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you.
Yes, of course, Doug.
Yeah, I gotta get that one. Well, there's probably end up being a new video come out here probably tomorrow sometime.
Nice.
Well, I'm gonna go off about that Fauci clip.
Yes,
please. As you should. So,
anyway.
If you'd like to support me, you can support me immediately by going to buymeacoffee.com/Koolfrogg. That's KOOLFROGG. Otherwise, you can follow me almost anywhere at Koolfrogg. There's a link tree down below with all the different places that you can support me. Anywhere that you support me, I will try taking a look at those and try answering any questions as they come across. That being said, say bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Wait.
Oh,
can you play that video I sent in private chat real quick? Cool.
Oh, sure. We'll play it as we go.
All right, sounds great. Awesome.
Okay,
all right.
hold on.
Yeah, I mean that's like,
Yeah, go buy this guy a coffee, by the way, you guys. He's tired.
So, sure.
Smallpox.
He is a sleepy frog.
Smallpox. All these people dying from measles.
Smallpox blanket.
Yeah.
Okay, again, we're gonna close this out as this ends. So,
All right, bye guys.
Later, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.